Have you ever wondered what exact moment changes a nation's perspective, or a person's entire life? Not a dramatic war, not a historical treaty, not a world-shifting invention. Sometimes it's something smaller, quieter, human. For Germany, that moment started not with politicians or scientists, but with a single man, Lucas Reinhardt, engineer, perfectionist, sleep-deprived workaholic. On a fog-soaked Frankfurt morning, Lucas dragged himself into the office, expecting another day of stress and deadlines. Instead, he was handed a beige envelope with a red seal. You have been selected for a 1-month international engineering exchange in the United States. Observe, learn, report what you discover. He stared at the letter like it was a prank, but it wasn't. Germany was sending him to understand American innovation culture, whatever that meant. He sighed. He had no idea this trip would tear down everything he believed about work, ambition, happiness, and even love. He also didn't know that one American, just one, would challenge his entire worldview. Lucas was a legend in his company, but not for the reasons people might envy. Precision, discipline, punctuality. He embodied every stereotype of a German engineer. But behind the facade was a man barely holding himself together. He worked 70, 80 hours a week. His back ached constantly. He slept with his laptop next to him, just in case. His girlfriend, Mara, often said, "Lucas, you live like a machine. I miss the man." He promised he would slow down, eventually, but he never did. So when the company assigned him to the US exchange, his boss said, "See how they work. They seem chaotic, but somehow things happen. Maybe there's something to learn." Lucas scoffed internally. Americans teaching Germans how to work. Impossible. His first hour in Austin, Texas was overwhelming. "Welcome to the land of big," the taxi driver joked as they passed trucks the size of small tanks. People waved at him for no reason. The air smelled like barbecue and sunshine. Everyone seemed relaxed, too relaxed in Lucas's opinion. Then he arrived at Bright Path Labs, the American tech facility hosting him. Engineers wore shorts. One had a dog sitting under his desk, another skateboarded across the hallway. Someone high-fived a vending machine for dispensing the wrong snack. Lucas stood frozen in the doorway. "This," he whispered to himself, "is madness." He came expecting disorder, but he didn't expect people to look so happy. That confused him more than anything. His assigned partner stepped forward with a wide grin. Eli Turner, mid-30s, sandy brown hair tied in a small bun, eyes sparkling with honesty. "Lucas, welcome, man. You hungry? I'm starving. Let's grab breakfast." Lucas blinked. "We don't begin work immediately." Eli laughed like it was a joke. "No briefing until I eat. My brain runs on coffee and eggs." Lucas wanted to correct him. Work must come before food, but he followed anyway. As they walked, Eli chatted with everyone, janitors, receptionists, random strangers outside. He remembered names, stories, birthdays. "Why?" Lucas asked. "Why talk to so many people?" Eli shrugged. "Because people matter. Simple as that." Lucas couldn't decide if he admired or pitied him. They walked into a diner decorated with neon signs and the smell of bacon. Eli greeted the waitress by name. She hugged him. Lucas was certain that would violate 6 workplace guidelines back home. During breakfast, Eli asked about Germany. Not the stereotypes, real questions. "What's the thing you love most about home? What's something you wish you had there?" The questions stunned him. Most people asked about beer or cars, but this man wanted to understand him. Mid-conversation, Eli casually tipped the waitress nearly 40%. Lucas whispered, "You know that's too much, right?" Eli smiled. "She's got 2 kids, and she works hard." Lucas stared at him. This wasn't chaos. It was compassion disguised as freedom. Back at Bright Path, Lukas braced himself. But instead of sloppy work, he saw something unexpected. When Americans focused, they entered a flow state. Fast, loose, adaptive. Brainstorm sessions looked like controlled storms, ideas bouncing like pinballs. When something failed, no one panicked. Eli shouted, "Good! That means we're one step closer to figuring it out." Failure wasn't shameful here. It was a tool. In Germany, failure was a scar, a stain, a point of embarrassment. But here, failure was a direction. It fascinated him, even if he wouldn't admit it. One night, Lukas returned to the lab for extra work. Old habits die hard. He found Eli sitting alone in the dark break room. A single lamp flickered softly. Eli held an old, dented keychain, turning it over and over. "You okay?" Lukas asked. Eli forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking." But the look in his eyes was unmistakable. Pain, deep, hidden pain. Lukas felt a pull in his chest, the first crack in his emotional armor. The next morning at the design review, something shocking happened. A young intern named Mia, barely out of college, interrupted the lead engineer. "Sir, I'm sorry, but your calculations assume a 20% efficiency drop. My dataset suggests it's closer to 32%. We might be underestimating risk." The room went quiet. In Germany, a veteran engineer would have shredded her confidence. But here, the lead engineer scratched his chin. "Interesting. Let's check your numbers." The team circled around Mia's laptop, debating, testing, listening. After the meeting, Lukas asked Eli, "You let interns challenge seniors?" Eli shrugged. "Why not? Good ideas don't need titles." That line punched Lukas in the chest. He thought of all the times he'd stayed silent in meetings, terrified of being wrong. Saturday morning, Eli showed up outside Lukas's apartment. "Grab your shoes," he said. "We're taking a road trip." "To where?" "You'll see." They drove through Austin, then past rolling green hills, dotted with wildflowers. They stopped at tiny towns where strangers waved at them. They ate tacos from a food truck where the owner insisted they try a special homemade salsa. At a scenic overlook, Eli said, "This is the part of America most visitors never see. People helping people, people loving loud, people living without waiting for permission." Lukas felt something loosen in his chest, something warm. He wasn't ready to admit what it was. Back at Bright Path the following week, an envelope waited on Eli's desk. Old, worn, handwritten. Eli picked it up and his entire demeanor shifted. His hands shook. He swallowed hard. "Who's it from?" Lukas asked. Eli hesitated. Then he whispered, "My father." He opened the envelope. As he read, tears rolled down his face, silent, uncontrollable. Lukas froze. He had seen failure at work. He had seen chaos. He had seen confidence. But this was raw humanity. And it was only the beginning. Eli didn't speak at first. He simply held the letter as if it were something sacred, fragile enough to break if handled too roughly. When he finally found his voice, it trembled. "My dad, he was a mechanic in the Air Force, strict, hard, never said 'I'm proud of you.' Ever." He gave a shaky laugh. "I spent my whole childhood trying to impress him. I went into engineering because I thought one day he'd look at me and say, 'You did good, son.'" Lukas sat across from him, silent. "Then, when I got older, we fought. A lot. I blamed him for everything he never gave. He blamed me for growing up different from what he expected." He wiped his eyes. "We stopped talking. Completely." Lukas felt a knot twist inside him. Eli inhaled sharply. "A month ago, he died. Heart attack." The room felt impossibly still. "I didn't get to fix it. Didn't get to say goodbye. But this letter, He lifted it gently. This was written before he passed, his last words to me. His voice cracked as he read aloud. I wish I had been around more. I wish I had told you how proud I was. I'm sorry. Be better than me. Lukas swallowed hard. He had always believed emotion was a distraction. But now, watching Eli crumble and rebuild himself at the same time, he felt something shift inside him. Not pity, not sympathy. Connection. The next day at work, Lukas witnessed something that shook him even more than the letter. During the morning meeting, Eli gently raised his hand. Before we start, I need to take the afternoon off. I'm dealing with some personal stuff. He hesitated, then added quietly, My dad passed recently. I just got his last letter yesterday. You could hear a pin drop. In Germany, Lukas thought, this would have been seen as weakness, unprofessional, overly emotional. But here, co-workers stood up. One hugged him. Another said, Take all the time you need. Someone offered to cover his tasks. Someone else brought him a cup of tea. There was no judgment, only support. And it hit Lukas like a punch to the chest. Americans weren't strong because they hid their emotions. They were strong because they didn't fear sharing them. It made him wonder what he had been hiding all his life. That night, Lukas tried calling Mara. He needed someone familiar, someone who grounded him. But when she answered, her voice carried a distance he had ignored for too long. Lukas, we need to talk when you come home. His stomach dropped. Mara, please don't. Lukas, I'm tired, she whispered. Tired of waiting. Tired of competing with your job. Tired of feeling like a stranger in your life. Silence. Deadly, heavy silence. I love you, he said, but I don't know how to do this differently. That's the problem, Mara replied softly. You don't even realize how much you've lost already. The call ended. Lukas stared at the hotel ceiling that night, feeling something in him crack. He felt small, unsteady, lost. And this time it was Eli who noticed. You want to talk? He asked gently. And for the first time in years, maybe his entire adulthood, Lukas let everything spill out. Fear, stress, guilt, loneliness, the weight of perfection. By the time he finished, his voice was gone. Eli placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to carry everything alone, man. Not here. Not anymore. Later that night, Eli drove Lukas out of the city to a quiet ridge overlooking Austin's lights. They sat on the hood of Eli's beat-up pickup truck, the air warm but gentle, the sky filled with stars. Eli spoke softly. You know what I learned about America? People think we're reckless, too loud, too emotional, too chaotic. He chuckled. But the truth is, we just believe in trying, even when we're scared, even when it hurts, even when we have no idea what we're doing. Lukas listened silently. America isn't built different because we're better, Eli continued. It's because we're allowed to fall and stand up again, allowed to fail without shame, allowed to change our minds and our lives. He turned toward Lukas. And you've been living like a man who's afraid to breathe wrong because everything might collapse. But that's not living, Lukas. That's survival. A breeze swept past them. You're allowed to begin again, Eli whispered. And in that moment, Lukas realized he wanted to. The next morning at Bright Path, Lukas volunteered to run a major prototype test. The team was shocked. He rarely led anything openly. He preferred calculations, not chaos. But today was different. He set up the equipment, double-checked every number, triple-checked every measurement. Then he hit the switch, and the machine sputtered, coughed, shook violently, then died. Everyone turned to him, waiting for anger, panic, excuses, stress. Instead, Lukas took one deep breath and said, Well, Now we know exactly what doesn't work." The room fell silent. Then, applause. Real applause. And a smile, small but genuine, found its way onto Lucas's face. For the first time in his life, failure didn't feel like death. It felt like freedom. When the month ended, Lucas returned to Germany. His co-workers expected a detailed, dry, highly technical report about American engineering systems. Instead, he wrote something bold, human, unexpected. He wrote about fearlessness, about ideas being allowed to grow before they're perfect, about teams that embraced failure, about vulnerability, about collaboration across ages and ranks. Then his conclusions stunned everyone. Germany has mastered the art of building perfect machines. America has mastered the art of building imperfect dreams and improving them relentlessly. If Germany built the machine, America taught me how to turn it on. Even the CEO had to sit down after reading it. Germany wasn't lacking intelligence. It wasn't lacking discipline. It wasn't lacking innovation. It was lacking permission to try without fear. And Lucas had returned, ready to change that. The moment he got home, Lucas went straight to Mara's apartment. She opened the door, cautiously, as if bracing for disappointment. "You seem different," she said. "I am," Lucas replied. He didn't launch into explanations, didn't defend himself, didn't give logical arguments. Instead, for the first time, he opened himself completely. He told her about Eli, about the road trip, about the letter, about seeing vulnerability treated as strength, about his own fears, about the man he wanted to become. Mara listened, her eyes softened, and when he finished, she stepped closer and whispered, "I've been waiting to hear your heart, not just your mind." Then she hugged him. This time, Lucas didn't hesitate to hug back. 2 weeks later, Lucas received an email from Eli. Subject, "Guess what I did?" When Lucas opened it, he saw a photo. Eli standing beside his father's grave, a small smile on his face, a breeze catching the edge of the letter he once couldn't bear to touch. Below it, Eli wrote, "I forgave him today. Thanks for being my friend when I needed one." Lucas felt his chest warm. America had changed him, but Germany, without meaning to, had changed Eli too. Inspired, Lucas pitched something wild to his company, a new department, not for perfect projects, but for risky ones. The Reinvention Lab, a place where young engineers could challenge seniors. Ideas were tested fast instead of discussed endlessly. Failures were recorded proudly as steps forward. Creativity had no rank, and perfection was not the goal, progress was. Many executives were hesitant, but a few bold leaders saw the potential. The moment the project was approved, the office erupted into debate and excitement. Germany was evolving, slowly, but undeniably. And at the center of it was Lucas, a man who once feared every mistake. Months later, during a video call, Eli appeared on screen with a grin. "So, remember your reinvention lab?" he asked casually. "Of course," Lucas laughed. "Why? You want to steal the idea for Bright Path?" Eli leaned forward. "Actually, I want to join it." Lucas froze. You want to work here? In Germany?" Eli nodded. "I realized something. America taught you freedom. But Germany, it has something America needs too. Precision, focus, depth, stability." He smiled warmly. "Together we can build something better than either country can alone." Lucas felt a lump form in his throat. A year ago, he wouldn't have believed any of this was possible. Now his future, and Eli's, felt wide open. They weren't just colleagues, not just friends. They were proof that the world wasn't divided into countries built differently. It was built by people willing to learn from each other. And that was the real moment Germany realized America was built different, because it inspired others to become different too.